With in-app events, the App Store continues to be the best place to discover
already. I guess everybody's on top of it. So much cool stuff to talk about. So we're going live now on YouTube as well. If you want to follow us along, you can see us discussing certain topics. You can help us pick topics. You can even suggest topics if you like us to talk about anything. So
so use the Padlet link that we've shared on the stream or in the Twitter to mark your highlights as well. We're basically just going to talk about whatever people put in and whatever we think was nice.
Yeah.
I still hear myself, so I'm just going to lower my volume and just going to listen to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes total sense. I guess your voice will be, people can listen to your voice either way through my microphone, so that's fine.
All right, so first off, what did you think?
I had ups and downs, to be honest. Sometimes I was a bit lost, and there were a few of those updates that were less impressive. Really, like you said, like they needed to level up their basic features in a way, but there were a few pretty big highlights. I think we will discuss in a bit.
Yeah.
How about you?
Oh, I had the same feeling as you. Like halfway through, we were putting like the laundry, the washing, like the dishes into the laundromat. But especially at the start with the map stuff, I really liked, and I really liked that there was a dedicated section for the developer stuff towards the end.
Yeah, that was kind of special in a way, right? Like really like a highlight of developer features. Of course, they always do a bit, but now with the APIs really being handled specifically.
Go in depth into what was announced, and I think it was mostly because of the xCode cloud stuff.
Yeah,
which was obviously a super big thing.
Yeah,
I wanted to highlight in a bigger way here.
Yeah.
Whereas normally we would see that in the State of the Union, so it's quite interesting to see what we'll have for the next 2 hours then.
It's going to be big, I think. I really think it's going to be big. I think Josh is still listening. He'll be really curious to see what's going on for Fastlane. I bet he took a week off to level up on all the APIs.
I think he would need a month off, though, with all this stuff that they announced for the xCode stuff. But maybe it'll make some of this work easier.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like me and Jordi discussed xCode Cloud. I think it makes sense to directly jump on this because it's such a big thing. But the first thing Jordi asked me is like, but what does this mean for me? And I kind of asked him the question, well, as an indie developer, are you using CI right now? And what did you say?
I don't.
I don't. I'm assuming that it will be much easier for you to use CI, like it's integrated, and that makes most of the time makes things much simpler to use.
Yeah, like you said as well, it will probably have a nice UI around it, so you can just click, all right, let me test it, let me build it every time I do whatever you guys do.
I assume it's something like that. I think they bought Buddy Build, which is obviously the story behind this whole feature, a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Ever since, I think everybody was wishing for this feature to come alive during WWDC with Xcode Senda and those kind of things. And now it's here. So I bet it must have been going on for 3 years at Apple to develop this feature. Yeah. So it's going to be big.
Yeah, you said it was not going to come out until next year.
Or
maybe we weren't paying attention, but
yeah, we weren't paying attention. Twitter did. So I got some replies on Twitter, and people say it's going to be a first private beta in a way early on, and later this year there will be more information about pricing and accessibility for it.
What pricing? So it won't be.
Yeah, so that's still to be confirmed. So don't hold me on this, but. I guess there would be something like a basic feature where you could use like one concurrent build or something, and then I bet there will be a pricing availability to speed up things or run concurrent builds at once. It's basically what you see with all those CI providers. That's kind of like the pricing tables, obviously.
Cool. I'm looking at the Padlet right now, and everyone who's watching or listening can go to the Padlet and put in their highlights as well. Someone here posted XC test memory management. Saw this in the API mayhem, and I'm very curious.
Yeah, I mean, there's already some kind of like API for this with XC metrics. You could monitor or at least test for memory usage and see how much memory is used with that specific test. So yeah, I wonder what this will be for kind of an addition.
Yeah, I think with all that stuff, it usually takes about a week before people find out the niche use cases for specific APIs. So that's what I love about Twitter. And this week, you'll have these random accounts from all over the world who make like some sample project or find some hidden gem in the API somewhere. And it's also a good way to get some followers, I think, because if you're the person to find that nice new addition.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what you want, right? Like I'm currently watching my computer screen here, and I'm refreshing to see the release notes because that's like a hidden gem for finding new features. Unfortunately, it's not yet working, but I bet if I search for XC test in a bit, we'll find out more information about it.
Yeah, and again, like we have the whole year to find all these things. It's not like we have to do them all in the 1 week, but it's always nice to.
Man.
I see some votes for the 3D object capture.
Yeah,
that was done towards the end.
Super impressive.
Really cool for all the AR stuff that obviously is coming somewhere in the future.
Yeah.
Up until now, you would have to use like third-party apps to do the scanning, and it was always quite the hassle to do. But it seems, and I'm not sure how easy it's going to be in practice, but it seems like anyone who's making an app around specific real-life objects can just scan them and put them in there really quickly.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. I wonder though how many like regular developers will have use cases for it at the start.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like, what will it do? It opens up doors, probably. You know, we have collect by WeTransfer where you can add all kinds of content to boards. But what if you can suddenly collect 3D items and add that to your board? I was building a house for my mower the other day. What if I find like inspiration across the street with a certain house, and I can make it in 3D, and maybe I can get measurements out of it. You know, like really find out how to build stuff. I think. Like we discussed before, this is all building up towards a bigger thing, don't you think?
Yeah, obviously. And I kind of like that they didn't give a little sneak peek now, but wait until when it's more fully filled.
Yeah.
But you obviously see for the last few years all the building blocks to all this stuff. Because you can't do this 3D stuff that they're doing now with like good spatial tracking. You can't do that without the LiDAR from last year and the year before. So it's all these things that have to be done.
It all builds up.
Yeah. I'm curious though if we will also be able to add this feature to our app so that users can do the 3D scanning, so that you can easily add your own thing.
Oh, I bet you can. I think it builds up like you have the quick look feature where you can like view 3D things in your apps. I bet it's something implemented in there, and we're likely gonna be able to use it in our apps, and it makes total sense, right? Like build on top of what comes out of it. So you basically present a scanner. That scanner will be built in. Not much customization is possible, probably. But then as an output, you get a 3D model, which you can then use in your app and do whatever you want with it. Maybe you can build like Snapchat filters yourself or something, or other 3D use cases.
Yeah, sounds cool. Test flight for Mac. This is for you, obviously nice with Rocket Sim.
Yeah, I mean, when it was announced, I was like, oh yeah, I need this. But currently I'm already live, and you know, but it's a super big thing. If you're developing a new Mac app right now and you want to let people test it, it's quite cumbersome to do so, right? It's not easy to invite people over, and right now you can just do a test flight just like with iOS, and it makes it so much simpler. You don't need to think about notarization. You know, every time I sent you a beta build of Rocket Sim at a time, I had to notarize it, wait for it to be notarized, and you know, and especially combined with Xcode Cloud, if it will be so easy to deliver beta builds to your friends or other colleagues.
Yeah, and that will be big. Also with more people who started on iOS or iPadOS, now also making Mac apps because it's easier with SwiftUI.
Yeah,
I think this will also help stimulate more apps coming to macOS. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think it makes things more accessible in that sense. Yeah.
So let's go over like platform by platform. So for iOS, what I really liked the most there was the new maps. Although it's probably going to be at least 3 more years before we get them here in the Netherlands. But yeah, I really love that sort of cartoony video game style they had with the
crazy
height and stuff you saw in there. These super details, bus lanes, being able to drive underneath an overpass and then seeing the overpass. I think that will probably be like their AR style as well in the future. Like sort of half cartoony with like not too realistic.
I mean, it's interesting to me to connect all the things together in a way, right? Like with the object mapper as well. Maybe they use that API already to build that whole maps environment in a way. But it looked amazing. I mean, you almost want to put a car in it, connect your PlayStation controller, and just drive through it.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. That would be a good way for people for them to get data or something. Just let people drive around the real world and see if there's any mistakes in the map data by just letting people drive around in it.
Right, yeah. But the other way around as well, if you're developing games like San Andreas at the time was really like San Francisco, right? If they could just use this data, that would be a game changer.
Because the data quality is big enough or high quality enough to use it in a game, I would think. So,
I think the basic measurements for buildings and stuff, and to make the roads realistic enough and stuff. Yeah.
I wonder how big the team is though that has to work to like digitize all these cities, because obviously they start with San Francisco because it's super close to Cupertino.
Yeah.
But to do that for like, let's say 1,000 major cities in the world, it's going to take a while.
But how do they do that? That's the question, right? Like, do they use satellites for it?
No, they use the cars that drive around. So that's why I think Apple is making the cars, not necessarily for people, but just
collecting data.
Just have 1,000 cars driving around the world always to constantly update these maps. But I don't know.
But that's not a complete picture, right? If you have buildings that are not completely surrounded by roads and stuff, they need to do the 3D mapping themselves in a way. So maybe something combined with cameras on the road and cameras in the air, or
might as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Yeah. So there were some improvements to FaceTime messages. I think the thing we liked most about FaceTime was the web stuff, that you can now have it on the web.
Yeah, makes it accessible for Windows, Android. That made my level
we were
of
saying
things.
like we don't really use FaceTime group conversations because I don't know, it just doesn't work really well. Or WhatsApp, for example, is much bigger here. But I would see like using this with a client or something, or combined with the share play stuff, where I can just share my screen, or my mom can share a screen when she's stuck on something.
Yeah. I can see it work internally in my team. When I have a one-on-one with my iOS colleagues, I can definitely see us using FaceTime instead. And I think during the keynote, I was telling you, I would probably use it if they create meetup links, and not much later they created it. It's like an ABC, which makes total sense, and it definitely makes it more accessible for bigger groups. But it was also the part where we thought like, they're just leveling up on features and they're making it big that you have portrait mode in FaceTime, but it's basically just a blur mode we know from Zoom and so on. So in that sense, they're leveling up.
Timothy Eisenman said in the chat that they used cars and drones for the map stuff. So that's
cars and drones.
And Capital R says also settling. So I think it's probably a combination of all the things. They probably use the cars to get just the basic data and then add it with.
Yeah, if it were to be satellites alone, then they would probably create those maps much faster from all cities. But they probably need like a combination of that data to really make the numbers right.
And they need to make sure that it's accurate enough, of course, to use.
Makes total sense.
Let's see. Well, there was a lot of improvements to notifications, but we were basically saying, we just turned off all notifications a few years ago, so it doesn't really matter for us too much.
No.
It looks nice if you use a lot of apps that have meaningful notifications, but we couldn't really think of many.
Yeah, the thing is, we hide all our notifications, right? So we don't really benefit from extra management tools. But I guess if you're really in the need of those notifications, say you're like really ad hoc responding to those notifications, it makes total sense to hide those WhatsApp messages in between your working messages in a way, notifications. So yeah.
Was there actually a way for that to turn on automatically? So for example, when you arrive at work, I guess you could make a shortcut or something that
location-based switching, I think it was.
To the focus. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's like do not disturb mode, right? So you could enable it based on where you are.
True.
I got an interesting message. My colleagues are currently keeping me up to date. They find all kinds of things. I'm still refreshing for that release notes. I'm not sure what's going on. But apparently you can review and merge PRs in Xcode right now. So that's a big thing.
Nice.
I would love to see more about that.
You were just saying earlier how nice you think it is to do that on GitHub. So now you'll be able to do it directly in Xcode.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the Xcode page is updated. So that's where you can find some new information as well.
Yeah, I just put up the Apple website on the stream as well, so we can just go through some of the stuff there. What I really like was the real-time text stuff that they do on the photos and on camera.
Yeah.
It's similar to what Google Lens has been doing, but it seemed like it was really nicely integrated all across the app, all across the OS.
Yeah.
It's quite nice for me because I'm working on an app with text recognition stuff. So ideally, in the next iOS, they'll do something where apps will be able to plug directly into the camera. I think this might be the first step for that, because now directly in the camera there's a button to go into a certain mode. Well, who says there can't be like other icons or other apps there in the future?
Yeah.
I know that Highlighted, which is an app for like marking like stuff in books, like quotes you like, they kind of felt like they were Sherlocked, but I think this is more the start of the camera and like the whole AR stuff that's related to that being integrated into the app ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I think those.
You still need to do something with the data, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting, if you use the vision framework to really get text out of images, it's kind of like a processing time. So you need to submit the image to the framework, and then you get back the text results in a way.
Yeah.
I wonder whether now by default images will contain metadata containing words that are linked to the photos.
Yeah, instead
much
of
more accessible.
only doing it when you do the request for it.
Yeah, exactly. So that would speed up things quite a bit if you add photos to the Photos
it's
API.
It's actually up quite fast already right now. You have a fast and an accurate mode.
Yeah.
And the accurate mode would send it to Apple and give it back there. I think it'll probably be just faster now because they have it so tightly integrated, which should be nice for me. But
yeah, if it's pre-generated, like upon making the photo.
It's I mean, if they do it real time in the camera app, they'll probably do it real time.
Yeah, I bet they would save or cache that information in a way.
Yeah. So for the Mac, was there anything for the Mac that you really liked, or anything that stood out for you?
Well, I'm a bit lost in the Xcode page right now, to be honest.
Okay, I'll just go over some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm seeing.
I mean, the SharePlay stuff, it's cool. The sharing the music and video, but yeah, this is all just based on that. Which we already
shall we take over in a bit? Just.
Sorry?
Yeah, shall I highlight what I see here?
Yeah,
so there's team comments in line. So whenever somebody comments, you can see that.
Share your screen, or you want to say?
If I'm able to do that, why not? Let's do it.
At the bottom, there's
window.
To share.
Yeah.
And then you can screen. You can
all right, what a tool, amazing. All right, so if you're listening on Twitter, you can follow us along on YouTube as well and see what I'm doing right now. And so the Xcode page is live, and
Yeah.
Right.
I just want. I guess I have to see that in practice. I like the A/B testing that they added for the App Store.
That is big. Seriously.
Last few months, I've been looking a lot into like App Store optimization and what comes with that. And obviously, a lot of stuff there. You had to basically, if you wanted to A/B test keywords or screenshots, what you would do now is make an update and then change a few things, and then don't do anything to your app for 2 weeks.
Yeah, see where it works. Yeah,
like to don't mess up the data. I'm curious how they'll do this and like how advanced it'll be, but this would be really like game changing for the whole App Store optimization thing. So websites like App Figures, they have all these like super clear guides on how to do it, but it's still a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there were any improvements to the App Store Connect API, and maybe.
Josh is listening. He's on top of it probably. I didn't check it out yet. For the SDK I've been developing, I kept an eye close on it, but so far I didn't see any news about it. But yeah, it's interesting to see as well an update on App Store Connect, right? To see how this would work. Niels Mouthaan, he's listening as well. He wrote a few blog posts about it. He's probably excited about it as well.
He actually did exactly that. So he did an update where he didn't change anything except for some keywords to see and if it had any impact. It should be a lot easier now. So
it's time consuming, right? If you can A/B test it, makes it twice as short because you can test it at the same time, maybe multiple.
And Google had it for a long time already, and there it would really work easily. You could just have two screenshots, and it would just automatically do it for 2 weeks, and then we'll tell you, hey, this is the best one. I found out a long time ago that I made fancier screenshots, and they turned out to be worse in conversion. So I just kept the
crazy, right?
Screenshots. So it would be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I guess it's one of those features that you could directly start using, right? It's not something that will be in beta. Once it's in App Store Connect, you can basically use it.
I wonder though if they will have it already available before iOS 15 launches.
Well, it's at least not available now. I'm looking at App Store Connect, but it probably rolls out maybe after the State of the Union or maybe tomorrow, or maybe some date in the future, and yet to be seen.
All right, so there's a bunch of sessions already posted, well, not live, but so it seems the sessions are going to go up at 3 p.m. our time. I always thought they were going to be up later, but it's actually nice that it's earlier in the day.
3 p.m. That will be a tough night for us if we want to wait for that.
No, 3 p.m., not a.m.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, all right. There you go.
Let's see. What else is there? I mean, it's nice that they do the stuff now with the keys, that you can have your car keys, your house keys, your hotel keys, whatever.
Yeah.
I remember when the first Apple Watch was announced, they also had the unlock your hotel room. I mean, I guess if you're paying $400 a night for a hotel, they'll probably have that, but I wonder how long it'll be before we can really use that.
Yeah.
House key stuff is cool if you have that stuff.
Would you use it? I mean, I'm obviously all into HomeKit. My house is going quite crazy, and I'm at a level where my girlfriend now starts to understand that. In the beginning, she's hesitant about it, but a few weeks later, she understands, like, oh, it's actually quite useful, you know. Right? But there's one thing she always tells me, like, we're not going to change the locks. It's there's like that commercial on television where somebody has all those locks in their house, and they're not watching closely, and all the doors open, and there's somebody breaking in the house at that moment, and you can just walk around and walk out of the house like nothing happens, you know.
Yeah, I think it'll be a while before this gets broadly used by people. But for me, the main thing is I rent a house, so I don't think the landlord would like it if I just change the locks.
No.
But it's also, what if you lose your phone? It probably works in a lot of scenarios. Like probably works when your phone is batteries out as well, because that's also how it works for the public transport stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll just be like over time though, more people will start using this. So I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just like the ID in your wallet, right? Like we discussed that as well. It was a big thing. But yeah, only in a few states in America right now, it's probably something that governments need to accept for like a real identification. Which makes total sense. But yeah, you said, and it makes total sense, in the nearby feature, that would be the new way to identify yourself, and you don't need anything in your pockets anymore, you know?
Yeah, because if you could think 20 years from now, of course, we're going to have it in our phone.
Totally,
We're not going to have a little passage you have to
Of course.
So it has to start somewhere. I guess, so what I understood, they were going to do it with a few American states.
Yeah.
And then the TSA, which is like the airport security in the US, they would like start a trial with that at some point. So then if you're from one of those states and you use TSA, probably in like some airports only, I mean, yeah, it's quite cool. I'm curious to see how the whole thing with that is. I can take a screenshot of that page,
Mm-hmm.
and then in theory, someone else could pretend to be me. That's probably way too obvious. So there'll probably be solutions for that, but
it's signing with Face ID, right? And then you can only press the button to
but I
share.
could just have like my screenshot of that page and just show this to. So maybe there'll be something where they have to like.
No, there is a real-time hashing algorithm that checks for it. It's just like with Face ID and wallet and stuff, right?
But what I mean is like after you do the face recognition,
Yeah.
it'll show you a card saying, "Hey, I'm Antoine, and this is my ID card."
Yeah, do you think it works like that? I think, but we should have watched more carefully here. But I think it will work with an NFC chip, and you can let it be scanned by something, and then it will do
that would make a lot
matching,
more sense,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, because it would be weird for someone to look at the screen. Oh yes, yeah.
No. That's not secure enough. No.
Right, let's see.
What did you think about developing apps on the iPad?
I never really believed that it would bring all of Xcode to the iPad, so this would make the most sense. I was really surprised at the end when they said, "Oh, you can just push it to the App Store," because at the start they were like, "Oh, you can do Swift Playgrounds here on your iPad and make iPhone and iPad apps," which seemed to work well, and they had all the components and I guess all the different libraries that are built in.
Yeah.
But then there was ship to App Store. I wonder though, will that be the real App Store? Or will
it was too easy.
Yeah, but also just with screenshots and everything. So how are you gonna? Well, maybe
right.
automatically.
But that's what I mean.
Screenshots.
But maybe it's just like a new app store within Swift Playgrounds where you can try out apps or so, or like more like
they did say App Store though.
Really like yeah. Well, maybe you need to set up App Store Connect, and then you can develop the new version of your app in Swift Playgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And after you've done all the metadata management, you can just push updates directly.
Yeah. I wonder. Well, this is not meant to replace a full development environment, of course.
No.
But you can see a future where with Xcode Cloud and stuff as well, where you can just do all the managing on your MacBook and have it all set up on the cloud, and then just edit in that existing project where everything is just handled on the cloud, so then you don't need the advanced stuff on the iPad. So, was there any information of if it's only for like Swift Package Manager, or could you also use?
Well, it's Swift UI only, and I think you can use frameworks with Swift PM since last year, so that could be the combination.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting, Swift UI only, right? Like that's also kind of a decision there.
Yeah, but Swift Playground is mostly aimed at like beginners.
Yeah.
At the start.
Yeah.
So it would make sense to use this new UI framework that is more aimed towards beginners. It's simpler to understand.
Yeah.
I think it's also. You kind of limit what kind of apps people will make with it. You're probably not going to make the most like metal ray tracing thing. Someone here was also saying like metal ray tracing was a really nice addition, which is like super complex, and you're not going to make a metal ray tracing app, I think, on your iPad.
No, but there was a discussion going on lately, right? Like, is Swift UI really meant to be the replacement of UIKit on the long run, or is it just meant for apps to be more accessible for new engineers to build simplified apps, and will UIKit be the real go-to framework still for building advanced applications? If you look at this announcement, Swift UI only, maybe that aligns with that story in a way.
I'm here on the SDK website, and there's this screenshot of the new workflows testing, which seems to be really nice. I'm just gonna share it.
Bring it on. I'm 12 minutes away from the new Xcode.
It looks really sick. Like just directly in Xcode, you would have all UI tests with live screenshots.
You know, this makes so much sense. You know, this is like Xcode Server in a way with Jenkins dashboards, which we had in early days.
So there were also some new SF symbols.
Yep.
They added 600 new symbols. I think it makes sense that it probably is going to add new ones every year, depending on what categories are most useful.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping for some like SF strings or something where just there were like thousands of most commonly used strings. You could automatically translate it to all the languages that Apple supports already. But
interesting,
this is also super nice. There were a lot of improvements to accessibility and localization. So yeah, I'm curious to see what we'll get there. But obviously there's 200 sessions, so it's going to be
200 sessions.
Let's see, is there anything?
Maybe we can go over some of those sessions and see if there's some cool highlights we wanna check out.
Yeah, so you can also comment on the YouTube link if there's anything you want us to talk about. We have the Padlet as well. What else is there? Yeah, some improvements to Safari, to the tabs on all devices. Yeah, I think all that stuff is nice.
But the privacy improvements there.
Oh, yes.
Those are crazy. You know, when the app tracking privacy pop-up was launched, you know, so many companies were getting angry. Basically, they were angry about losing the data they should have never had either way, right? In a way. And now this is kind of like the next step, you know. Email marketing is kind of like, well, they're getting blocked about reading notifications, all those kind of things. People sign up with emails that don't make any sense, so you can't link data anymore through that way.
It's basically the stuff they had from sign in with Apple, because when you sign in with Apple, you could choose to hide your email, and now they just have that as a feature for every email field on the web.
And I feel like unsubscribing will be much easier now as well, right? You can just disable that email. That's super cool. Yeah.
Although it might be tricky to figure out, all right, which of the fake emails did I use for this service? But
well, they showed it, right? Like they showed with the email with which service it was linked to.
Yeah, but all right. So let's say you're on a different computer and you want to log into that service. There might be some, like if everything's in the Apple framework, in the Apple ecosystem, it would be nice. But what I really liked was the iCloud Plus stuff.
With VPN.
Yeah. So basically, I think they integrated a VPN directly into all your Apple devices if you pay for iCloud Plus. Which is basically if you have one of the storage tiers, I think that's when you will be paying for it.
Yeah.
I really like that, and I think the reason why they ask money for that is because all traffic will then have to be routed through Apple, so I guess it would have some costs associated with it.
Yeah.
And then there was also there were three things. So there was the unlimited HomeKit cameras up from 5. Maybe there will be a limit. I think the limit will probably be something like 50 or something that most people won't run into.
Yeah.
But they obviously don't want the security company to just have one Apple ID and then just add all the cameras from all their thousands of houses to it.
Yeah.
What was the second one for iCloud Plus?
I could create some notes.
Yeah, Matthijs is saying also about the Shazam kit stuff, that you can have your custom catalog like we were discussing. All right, so the second thing, what was the second thing they added to Cloud Plus? Because I think I like the second one even more. They had the privacy report stuff now as well, so you can see all the the connections that your apps on your phone made. You could see how often
hide my email.
Different permissions. Sorry?
Yeah, hide my email. I think I did 3 things: private relay, hide my email, and secure video. Yeah. So we covered them most of.
Yeah, but I really like that privacy report because now you have the little card, right, on the App Store that says, all right, this app might use this data. But now it actually shows it.
Yeah, it's next level, right?
In theory, we could use all these things.
Yeah.
In practice, we do all these things.
Yeah.
And it shows all the connections that are made. So I think you could then go into an app and then just really quickly see, hey, is this app making connections that don't make any sense for what they tell me?
Yeah, and then maybe block that as well. That would be interesting, right?
That might be difficult though, because a regular customer won't know, all right, this app needs to connect to these servers. They were saying third party. So I would imagine you can probably add some of your own domains.
Probably it would.
Like associated domains.
Yeah, I think you almost need to, because otherwise your main API domains will also go in that list, and you don't want that to be listed as a tracking thingy.
Yeah, but on the other hand, how do you decide what your private API or your APIs are? Because some websites or apps have hundreds or.
I think you need to whitelist them in your app.
Maybe similar to with the associated domains.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. Let's see.
What do you think it will mean for analytics on web?
What do you mean?
Well, your IP address is no longer shared. 3D or the third-party trackers are blocked.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't announce any of their own analytics stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Replacement for this, because there's some valid reasons sometimes to have this data and not just from your test flight users. But for websites, right? Like I'm using Cloudflare for Swiftly. I'm getting quite some information there, and I'm now seriously wondering, with the hiding of the IP address, whether that will influence my data. If they really are based on IP address matching, you know. Yeah. I think we'll just have to see after the sessions. But this is also, I remember App Tracking Transparency last year was supposed to go live in fall, and then they postponed it due to all the pushback, or at least to all the controversy. I could see them also like putting this out there really extremely and then waiting a while before they actually push it through.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
There's actually faster and simpler notarization for Mac apps. That's one of the sessions.
Okay.
That probably relates to the test flight.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
One of the APIs I saw is that there's now a Focus API for SwiftUI. At least it was called SwiftUI Focus. So I would imagine it's giving you the opportunity to become first responder for a text field or something, or like choose where.
It's crazy that didn't work, right? That was so odd.
Yeah, it's probably very difficult to make. They probably have very good reasons for that, because if Apple wants to do anything with that as well, they run into it. So
yeah, with the responder chain and stuff.
Yeah,
it was one of the hardest things to do for me in Rocket Sim, honestly. It's crazy, right? Well, the new preferences screens are and I was really struggling with switching focus from text field to text field, and especially with Catalina support. So yeah, if you're listening and you're on Catalina, I might gonna drop that soon, which makes sense, I guess. But yeah, it will be really nice to see what it will bring.
I'm seeing something really interesting here. Meet DocC documentation in Xcode. Discover how you can use DocC to build and share documentation for Swift packages and frameworks. We'll show you how to begin generating documentation from your own code. So I'm not sure if any of the documentation has been improved. There was a rumor, of course, that they would make improvements to the general documentation, but it seems like they're working on this new format for making documentation. So it would make sense if Apple's frameworks use that as well. And from what I see here, it's sort of similar to the SwiftUI tutorials. One of the samples they say have here is like it looks like the SwiftUI tutorial.
Yeah.
So I guess you could make that style of tutorials really easily for your own packages and frameworks, which is obviously really nice for all the big ones, for Fire or whatever.
And for open source as well,
Yeah.
But that was one of the questions as well at a certain point with Xcode Cloud. Will it also support CocoaPods and stuff? But if you think about it, the future is really Swift Package Manager, and it's actually quite fast and stable already lately. We're using it and collect with several packages all at once, and it works pretty good. By adding this documentation, it makes it even more reason to really go full on Swift PM, especially with open source packages. We honestly have one of our frameworks where currently isn't working. It's open source with CocoaPods. Yeah, I was like, would I really need to spend time on making it work with CocoaPods right now if we really support Swift PM? Because that's kind of the go-to direction in the future, either way, in a way, right?
Yeah. There's a music kit for Swift, so they updated that API. Used to be quite outdated, from what I understood. StoreKit 2 delivers powerful Swift native APIs for in-app purchases and auto-renewable subscriptions.
Okay.
If anyone is using Revenue Cap, it's interesting to watch.
By the way, we didn't handle shortcuts for macOS yet.
Oh yeah, so
that's going to be interesting, right?
Yeah. So you were talking about maybe implementing that in Rocket Sim from the Safari link, for example.
Yeah, thanks. Now I'm getting sure a lot, but everybody's listening now. No, of course, I'm going to improve for Rocket Sim either way this upcoming weeks. But yeah, I can totally see us implementing shortcuts to work with the command line tools from Xcode. Or, I told Joss already, you're going to be busy, Joss. You need to make shortcuts for Fastlane, and I want to have all 9 lanes in a shortcut available. No, but it's interesting how it's going to be integrated. If it really integrates into Safari, into you saw an example in Finder where you could generate a Giphy from a video. I think they gave us an example. I can totally see that working nicely. Make it more accessible to integrate apps within macOS itself in maybe a more familiar way.
Yeah. In a more accessible way for people who are not, like, you used to have Automator, where you could do all that stuff. It was quite complex, and now people can just share them, and you can just go to a website or on Twitter, someone could share a shortcut. You download it, it's on your Mac.
Right. I'm using Alfred now for certain shortcuts in a way. We're using Bitrise, and one of the shortcuts I created there, I'm already calling it shortcuts, but it's Alfred. But I got an automation there that if I type in Coyote, which is our nickname for our project, and then test flight or release, then it will trigger the whole Bitrise flow to create a release or create a test flight build. Very, very accessible, super fast.
Mhm.
I can totally see me changing that to shortcuts and share it with a team by the Apple ID, make it easier to maintain in that way. That would be super nice.
I see some other nice sessions coming up tomorrow. The process and the practice of inclusive design. So there's like 2 dedicated sessions to, I would imagine, how you start putting that into your development process as well. And there's also one about ultimate application performance survival guide. So I hope that will just give a very clear, like, hey, these are things to look for every time you were working on optimizing your app. So there's stuff about metric kit, instruments and stuff. There's always good to have more information there. There's some updates to app clips as well.
Yeah. And what's always interesting, I think everybody's listening, most of them are engineers, but every engineer works with designers. And I told my designers today as well, make sure to watch the keynote, obviously, because they need to know what's going on iOS and where they need to design for. But there are a few sessions every year with WWDC that you can definitely share with your designers, like the practice of inclusive design and the process of inclusive design. Those are examples of those sessions you definitely need to share with your designers and keep them busy this week as well.
Yeah. And not even just keep them busy, because it will probably teach them a lot of things as well.
Totally.
These are not like, hey, this is how you should do it. No, this is why you should be doing this. And I mean, if anyone can give a good example, it's Apple with all this stuff.
Right. So, last year you had that one with the animations, right? In iOS, that one was pretty big.
Yeah.
I remember.
A lot of what's new. So what's new in App Clips, AppKit, ADKit, CloudKit. Is there anything?
Do we already see something about Swift data? Not really, right?
No core data replacement yet. I don't think so. No, let's see.
Analyze HTTP traffic and instruments. Interesting. To record and analyze your app's HTTP traffic will show you how to explore and visualize the behavior of sessions, tasks, and individual HTTP requests to ensure data is transmitted efficiently and respects people privacy. They're really leveling up there.
I mean, they always had this thing where you couldn't have HTTP links unless you explicitly added it to your info key list.
Yeah.
I could see them after a few years just blocking HTTP traffic at all, especially because they were also saying they were doing some improvements to HTTP traffic and then, with the iCloud Plus thing. But yeah, I mean, there's so many sessions tomorrow already. Use the camera for keyboard input in your app. Ooh,
hey,
as well.
Customize and resize sheets in UIKit. Remember, well, there's one annoying thing up until now with sheets. If you open the Maps app, you could use the sheets. You know the new sheet style since last year, right? With the rounded corners and the background still being your app. In Maps, you could make that simply.
The thing coming from the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. But there could be like a mid-level position.
Yeah.
And on iOS, the only way to use it was with the full screen.
Yeah.
Right.
But is there something for that?
Yeah, there is a session customize and resize sheets in UIKit. And you can basically resize it probably. Yeah, size customization, revealing or hiding grabber controls, and adapting between popovers and customized sheets.
Oh, on which date is that? Because that's one of the things I was hoping for, like a bottom sheet.
Yeah, you should definitely add this to your schedule. It's 9th of June, so it's this Wednesday.
Okay, and what was it called?
Customize and resize sheets in UIKit. Yeah, that's going to be big.
Okay, well, there's so many. I'll find them later, I think. All right, let's see what's coming up on Wednesday. Quick look stuff. I like the quick note stuff. I think it's only for iPad though.
iPad and macOS, and you can edit them on iPhone. That was the thing. Yeah.
I would like something like that on my phone, because I usually just want to make a quick note here and there. But I mean, I guess it makes more sense in an iPad environment where you're working in one app. And then,
right.
Some improvements to create ML, hand poses and actions, which makes sense. Creating accessible experience for watchOS. I think that's probably where they were talking about that stuff that they announced a few weeks ago, where you could like pinch your hand, pinch your thumb to. So I'm really curious to see how we can implement that in our apps as well. It should be pretty straightforward, because it seems like just similar to the what's the API for accessibility, where you like tap on the screen to go to the next element and then double tap.
Touch control, was it that? I'm not entirely sure.
Not too sure, but I think it will probably work similar to that, but then on the watch. So that should be really nice for adoption. Demystify Swift UI. Peek behind the curtain into the core tenets of Swift UI philosophy: identity, lifetime, and dependencies. find out the most common patterns. I think this will be really nice because up until now, the community has had to figure out the best way to work with Swift UI.
Yeah.
Also because it was like still in progress, of course, but.
Yeah, it's like the data flow session you had last year in Swift UI. They really level up on explaining like best practices in Swift UI, and yeah, it's always like hard to get to know that if there's no example from Apple. It's really nice to have an example at least.
Yeah, I think these are going to be the sessions that will be referred to next year for. Right, if you want to work with Swift UI, watch this video first, and maybe disregard the ones from the previous 2 years because maybe they're not as up to date anymore.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Oh, this one is nice. Discoverable design. Discover how you can create interactive, memorable experiences to onboard people into your app. We'll take you through discoverable design practices. That's one of the things that I think a lot of apps from indie developers especially might have issues with. All right, I've got this cool idea. I make an app and yeah, it works, makes sense how it works because they've been working on it for months, so they understand their app, of course.
Yeah.
But how do you get people who are new to your app to understand, like, all right, go this path, take these steps?
Yeah, I used to color red, which shows up first.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is they used Toasty as an example in the screenshot. And Toasty was also the app they used a few years ago when they were like, how to prototype your app with Keynote. I'm not sure if you saw that.
Oh, no.
They were basically using Keynote as a way to prototype your app before you were making it.
Gotcha.
So I think this comes from that same team, probably.
Yeah, that could be.
And it's very useful information that you can immediately put into your app. So that's cool, I think.
All right, I got the first sign of improvements in core data. Bring core data concurrency to Swift and Swift UI. That's interesting. Discover how core data is adopting the new concurrency capabilities of Swift 5.5, leading to more concise, efficient, and safe asynchronous code. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm super happy about it. We're currently quite struggling with multiple contexts in Collect. Core data is just really complex, and if that's going to be simplified, I mean, I'm happy.
Cool. So, yeah, you have to explain to me what async means in a week because I haven't got to that point.
I'll try my best to explain it through a blog post. How about that? And send it to you and get your approval.
It sounds good. If I understand it, then other people will probably do as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask my mom to understand it this time. No. I'm pretty sure that will be too complex.
Some more info about the App Store A/B testing. From what I see, it's about the visual assets. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to also change the keywords, which
they're not giving that away right now. No. Linked to it though is in a session about analytics. What is new in analytics? Not long ago, they released that new dashboard in App Store Connect. So I'm pretty sure they will give an update on that and maybe some new extra improvements as well. That will be super interesting.
All right. There's some improvements to making blazingly fast lists and collection views. That's also obviously a thing that, I mean, they make sessions about that every year because I think there's always stuff that can be improved there. I saw something about twice as fast performance, so that would be really nice, of course.
Yeah.
Need text kit 2. It's too complicated for me to talk about. I'm just going to skip that one. Move beyond passwords, obviously.
There's also Swift packages using collections. I remember reading about it before, but I'm not sure what it is.
And I think the collections are the algorithms, or
no. I think it's different. Or is it discover and curate Swift packages using collections? Whether you're creating packages for your team, for education purposes, or to share with other developers, Swift package collections can help you discover, explore, and import new packages into your project. Discover improvements in Swift package workflow using collections and learn how to curate, create, sign, and share your own Swift package collections. Maybe it's a bundle of Swift packages.
Yeah, I didn't understand half of those words, so I'm not.
All right, okay.
I mean, I know that an array is a collection, right? So
yeah. Well, if there's one thing I hope they did while I'm extracting Xcode 13 beta, and I can answer it in a bit, Swift PM was not at its best on M1 MacBooks. For example, code coverage, when you open a package directly, didn't even work. And I learned to develop my apps without code coverage lately. So I was really like looking through the code and see whether I touched all the areas. But I mean, I bet they did a real big improvement on that part as well, and maybe even optimized it for M1 chips with build times.
I'm seeing one here about SharePlay, and SharePlay is basically the API for collaborating with other people or watching stuff together. And, apps can also integrate it themselves. and there's a session called Build Custom Experiences with Group Activities. So I think group activities will be the umbrella term for this, which I think will be something that a lot of new apps can be made on that wasn't possible before. Because you could have, of course, make this kind of stuff, but you would have to have your own sync engine for all the different devices. But I mean, here you can just make shared experiences that probably work really in a simple way. So I'm really looking forward to that. I can imagine that most apps will probably just share their entire screen to someone else.
Yeah.
But it would make much more sense if, for example, if you're playing Pokemon with someone else, that you have like their avatar walking around in your game or something.
Yeah. It's interesting what apps will do in it, right?
Yeah.
Question, Yuri, do you know what ARC is?
Automatic blah blah collection.
Well, that's the thing.
That's the thing we haven't had to use for 4 years, right?
That's the thing, right? It's from iOS 4, I think, and iOS 5 introduced ARC, automatic reference counting. So you don't have to retain and release memory management yourself, in a way.
Is it the same as the weak self stuff that people sometimes use?
Well, yeah, you have like you have an object and you said, I want to retain it. And if you don't need it anymore, you would release it.
Okay.
But if there's two people saying, I want to retain it, and one releases it, then it would still be kept in memory. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't handle it correctly, you would have memory leaks because it was still there. But now, why I'm introducing you to this right now, it's 2021. Now, there is a session, ARC in Swift, Basics and Beyond. I think it goes about reference cycles, retain cycles. Dive deep into what language features make object lifetimes observable, consequences of relying on observed object lifetimes, and some safe techniques to fix them. It's not saying use weak self all the time, by the way. So, no, but this is definitely a session I think even senior, like experienced developers will benefit from, because if there's one thing really hard to understand for most of us, it's weak self, unowned self.
Yeah.
When you do weak self either way or when not.
Yeah, because it's really core to the technology. It's like very theoretical as well.
And it's hard to imagine what it does, right? And when you make that mistake, it's not immediately visible. You only will see it being visible if your memory grows and grows and grows. Mm-hmm. By the way, the concurrency changes will make this much easier already, because you have less closures to work with, and the actors will actually break Xcode building when you do those kind of mistakes. So that's a great improvement. But I bet this session will go into deep in that topic.
Okay, so this is only for people who make mistakes when they code.
Yeah, so I'm watching it.
Okay. There's a session about spatial interaction. So last year with the iPhone 12, they had this thing where you could see other iPhone 12s.
Yeah.
And you could like see with the UWB chip.
Yeah.
There's improvements there. So it would be cool to see what will be possible there about interacting with your surroundings.
Interesting. There's a dedicated session for breakpoint improvements. How can you fill a session completely about breakpoints?
Well, so that was the nice thing about last year, that some of the sessions were just 5 minutes. They could just have sessions that only explain one little thing.
It can be a small one, yeah.
Let's see, was there anything else? We can also maybe ask some people who are listening if they can talk about some of their highlights and how they relate to their apps.
Yeah, let's do it in a bit. I'm just reading about Explore. I'm almost at the bottom, by the way, about sessions. I'm at Friday right now. But Explore advanced project configurations in Xcode. Did you get that? Advanced project configurations.
Okay,
in
what
Xcode.
does that mean?
Well, I guess it goes into the deep depth of like what's already in Xcode. There's nothing really new to it, if I read it correctly.
Okay.
But there were some rumors with SwiftPM creating more accessibility to create build schemes for a SwiftPM project. For example, if you open a project in SwiftPM, it will create a project at that moment for you. But there's no way to integrate SwiftLint, for example. So when you're editing a package and you want to run SwiftLint at that moment, it wasn't possible. I think up until now, if I recall correctly, it should be possible right now. But maybe, and that's what they said, there will be like an advanced way to configure Xcode projects and get rid of that Xcode project file, which always comes with merge conflicts in Git. So I wonder whether that happened. I guess I will know in a bit when I open Xcode, but it's interesting.
There's AR Kit 5 is coming this year. Last year they added, one of the things they added was like location anchors, so that you could know in certain cities, certain locations, like the person is standing here now. There's additional regions there, which is nice. Improvements of face tracking, motion capture, some best practices. And we'll also show you how you can integrate app clip codes into your AR app. So you can imagine just looking around in AR and seeing an app clip and it would start something. So that way you could have like easily bring stuff up depending on what you're looking at.
Interesting, yeah.
So yeah, do you want to bring in a few people and
let's do it.
Talk about what they're like. Oh, hang on, localize your Swift UI app. This is nice. No, there's a lot of stuff that can be good there. So yeah, maybe if anyone wants to talk about what their highlights were, they can just raise their hand. I think is that how it works?
Yeah, we can do it in Twitter Spaces. I don't think we can do it on YouTube right now. So if you're on Twitter and you're listening to our current space and you want to share your thoughts or maybe ask a question live, feel free to reach out and I'll hand over the mic to you. We didn't really invite people up until now, so this is new, right?
There's just so much stuff going on. So yeah, I think it's going to be a while before I watch most of these. I always say to myself, right, I'm going to watch all of the ones that I've marked as favorite. This year it's going to be difficult with 200.
So many sessions, right? You really need to pick the ones you want to actually do something with on the short term, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's probably good to watch the core ones as well. So wait, do we not have anyone that wants to...
No, there's nobody yet who dares to join us, Jody.
All right, then we'll just keep talking, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's see, what else is new? I mean, let's just talk about the keynote itself. I really liked the introduction they did with the real developers.
Yeah, that was funny, right?
And we were joking, like, how cool would it be if you and I couldn't tell each other that we were part of that video? And you would just see Antoine or me just in that video. Oh, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that would have been so funny. Yeah,
and I just love the whole production quality with these things. Like they go all out.
We're so
like
spoiled with these videos.
Yeah.
It's crazy. At a certain point, I was watching that and I was like, "Yeah, this is normal now." You know, Greg falling through the ground into a privacy room. You know.
Yeah, and we don't even compare it to other because if you look at, for example, Samsung's keynotes or something, it's always so much more.
Do you watch
basic? Them? Sometimes. It's something interesting to see, but it's much more salesy there, and I think it's also Apple's been doing this developer conference for like 30 years or something. So, is there anyone?
Yeah, there is one. Let's directly jump on it.
More important.
Yeah. All right.
Who do we have?
Right, he can now talk with us. It's Gulam, if I pronounce it correctly. It's funny, he jumped off the screen after I gave him the mic.
Yeah, I don't see him anywhere here as well. So if there's anyone that wants to share like what their highlights were, we're just curious to hear what other people thought, because we're obviously just two guys sitting here. So yeah, if anyone has any
I would love to.
you came across, or just anything you thought was interesting to mention.
Yeah, happy to join on top of a question. You know, if you have a question for us, bring it on.
Meet the CloudKit console. So there's a new CloudKit console, I think.
There's a CloudKit dashboard.
I think that was already there, of course, right? You had to do anything with CloudKit, but I'm not sure what this really improves. Practice audio haptic design. So you can obviously change the haptics on your phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a session. Oh
yeah. We got 2 people. 3. All right, here we go. Okay, let's start with Dennis. Hello. Hi, Dennis.
Oh, nice. That's sick.
Interesting. Yeah, exactly. Totally, yeah. Yeah, that's a nice thing, right? Like really leveling up all on the default components available in SwiftUI. And what is your number one announcement of tonight? Anything. If you can pick one thing about tonight's announcements.
While you think about that, I would love to talk about the swipe gestures on the cells. That was like one of those things, like everything about the list was super easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you wanted to do anything like that more advanced, you would have to come up like Dennis was saying, his own custom solution. So I feel like maybe this is the year that SwiftUI becomes the thing that handles 95% of use cases instead of the 85 or so that it was before, for simple things, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are the kind of things that a lot of people were complaining about. That was the reason why they wouldn't use SwiftUI. So I think they're slowly going away. What are you working on, Dennis? What kind of apps are you building? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dang, that's nice.
Wait, so you only use SwiftUI in a hospital environment? I would think that those were more like, all right, we need to support everything. Mm-hmm. All right. And then SwiftUI is a good choice, of course, if you're starting from scratch anyway. Oh yeah, nice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's the downside, right? Like being fully on SwiftUI is super nice, but
hang on, let me interrupt you for a bit.
Okay.
So we're gonna turn off the video stream because the people that are tuning in now, you won't be able to hear them there. So if you're watching it on the video stream right now, go to twitter.com/twananl and then you can join Spaces. So we'll see you all there, or we'll listen to you.
Yeah, maybe share the link in the chat so they can easily find it, right?
I think it's already it's on the ticker tape now as well, but. Yeah. So.
Oh wow. Okay. Sorry, Dennis. I'm a bit distracted. I just opened one of the Swift packages in Xcode, the new Xcode.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a live live review of what I see here. Thanks for joining us, Dennis.